Unit 5, Lesson 6, Solving Equations Using Adding or Subtracting. So this is our one step, as we're working our way towards multi-step. You can see that we've got to use these with integers, and we've got all these positive fractions as well with our current standard here. So there is one step, and we're going to have to show that one step of work. Our vocab is equivalent equations. Again, equivalent meaning equal. So equivalent equations are equations that have the same solution or equal solutions, equal answers. And that is an interesting thing to show, but we'll kind of show that in our other examples as we get going through it. Because today, because we're doing adding and subtracting, there's the addition property of equality and the subtraction property of equality. But you and I, we're going to be using the addition property of equality all the time, even though we're not going to quite be referring to it. The addition property of equality says when you have an equation here, something equals something, and then A, that's something, plus C equals B plus C, which again, letters, not very helpful, but everybody circle up those C's. Notice again, we started with just A, but we're going to add something to both sides. Whatever you do to one side, you must be nice and do to the other side. You must keep it equal. So when we look at addition property of equality, that's what we're talking about. We're going to add something to both sides of an equation and keep it as an equivalent equation. So on our assignment then, we write down the original problem, the original equation, like this one, W plus 6. Now, with my fingers here, I'm going to take a look and we're going to find which side the variable on and which side the letter is on. We're going to focus on the side with the letter. We want to get this letter. We want to isolate the variable and get it all by itself. So we can say, how do we get rid of addition? But what I want to say is, I'm going to focus over here. I want to get the W all by itself. So how can I get rid of adding 6? What can I add to a positive 6 to get rid of it? We're going to add a negative 6. Now again, some people like to do this. You don't have to do it. I'm just doing it to show you. With my other smartboard, I'll use my magic pen so this disappears naturally. But what we're talking about with this addition property of equality over here, you got to add the same thing to both sides of the equal sign. So notice, since I've got a plus 6 over here on this side, plus a negative 6, excuse me, I need to add a negative 6 to both sides. Whatever I do to one side, I've got to do to the other side. I've got to play nice. And we're doing this because a positive 6 plus a negative 6 cancels. It's 0. Cross it out. You can see on the left side, we're left with W. So keep it on the left side. Bring down your equal sign. And now we're going to take a negative 5 plus a negative 6. Again, we're adding two negatives, adding down. You borrowed money, You lost 5 yards. You lost 6 yards on second down. Total so far, a loss of a negative 11 yards. Now, just this one time, off to the side over here, what I want you to do is put down the word check. Because math teachers and math books have this instructions of solving and checking. So when it says you have to check, and when other teachers say you have to check, once you're done, then you write the word check. And from there, you put down the original equation. And now we're going to check to see if this answer is correct. So we're going to substitute, we're going to plug this answer in for W. We're going to plug in a negative 11 into our original equation to check to see if we're right. And then what we do is we simplify. Over here, again, a negative 11 plus a positive 6. They're not both positive, don't add them. They're not both negative, don't add them. Over here, we get that negative 5. And on the right side, we keep bringing that down. That's a negative 5. So again, did we get equivalent equations? Did we get equations that have the same solution? And yes, these are the same. Negative 5 does equal negative 5. That means we have the correct answer over here. However, in my class, most oftentimes, you're going to see that even if we have solve and check, I tell you not to check. We're going to focus in on the solving spot of our equations. And so, we focus in on solving equations. Again, on your assignment, you write this down in your notebook right away. And then we have a phrase where we say don't subtract. Did you say it? It's add, and not just add, but add the opposite. And the opposite of a positive 13 is a negative 13. So we're going to write that in. And now again, we focus on the side where the letter is at. We want to get that variable all by itself. So what we're going to do is we're going to cover up that variable, and we're going to see that we're adding a negative 13. So you and I have one step award. Today we're going to add something. So what can we add to get rid of a negative 13? That's correct. We're going to add a positive 13. Now notice, we've already done that over here on the right side of the equal sign. So now I need to make sure I have that same number and the same operation on the left side. So since I added 13 over here, that's what this plus C is talking about. We added something to the right side. Now we must add something to the left side. Again, some people like to draw that line there with the equal sign. That's a great idea. You don't have to. I use my magic pen in class to show that we've got a positive or plus 13 on the left side of the equal sign and a plus 13 here. We did that because on this side, 2 plus 13 gives us 15. 13 plus a negative 13, those guys get you 0. Cross them on off. Only thing that remains on the right side is that x. Box it on up. Again, if it says solve and check and your teacher says solve and check, you must do that. For me, I want to focus in on the solving. So go ahead and turn the packet on over. And as you do that, oh no, fractions. Well, when you look, we've got that over here. I'll get it to focus. Positive fractions and positive decimals and integers. Notice that's what we're focusing on right now, one-step equations. This builds into our 2 steps, and then from the 2 steps, we're going to have even more steps, whether this year or next year, we'll see that. So these are all important. So don't stop, don't give up. Again, if you don't like fractions, change them to decimals. What do you do with the 4 and the 5? What does this line mean? Yeah, it means divide. So you grab that calculator. No, this is not 4.5. No, this is not 0.45. Take the top divided by the bottom. Get you 0.8. Take the top divided by the bottom. Get you 0.4. And you can solve it doing that way. However, like our example down here, sometimes our fractions cannot be changed to decimals. So as per usual, as your math teacher, I'm going to teach us with fractions, which is a great review of fractions, as well as a reminder of how to do them if we get an equation with positive fractions. So as we talk about positive fractions, here we go. Usually we have a phrase, don't subtract, add the opposite. So we can follow that here. And then again, as it focuses on in, what you'll see again, you find the side with the variable. Whatever side's got that letter, that's the side we're going to focus in on. Whatever's got the letter, that's the side, because we want to get this letter by itself. So we're going to deal with the letter last. So then we want to get rid of this negative 4/5. What can I add to a negative 4/5 to get rid of it? Well, that would just be a positive 4/5. Oh no, fractions. Well, good news. What do we need in order to add or subtract fractions? A common denominator. That same bottom, we've got that. So on the left side, the 4/5 plus a negative 4/5 cancels. Don't put down 0. Cross it off. We're left with m. Notice how this equal sign is staying nice and lined up. Everything's moving down evenly. And then, because we already have a common denominator, we add the tops. We get 6/5. And again, that is improper. 5 goes into 6 one whole time. Minus the 5, because 1 times 5 gets you the 5. So we're left with 1 and 1/5. A perfect answer. A great answer. Again, as a decimal, you would have gotten the answer 1.2, and I would accept that as well. So it is your choice on how you do that. But when I talk about choice, again, when you take these ones and you divide them on out, when you take 2 divided by 3, you get a lot of the same number, and then the calculator rounds at the end. So that cannot be abbreviated because you need to be able to put infinitely many that many 6s. From here again, 11/6, dividing that on out does not get to us a terminating or a decimal that ends. So that being said, then we're just going to have to take care of that. Now, from there, again, you find the side with the variable, and on that side, you focus in on that number. So for today, it's one step. We're just going to add something. Or you can subtract as well. So in this instance, f plus 2/3. Well, if you wanted to, yeah, you can just subtract 2/3, because 2/3 minus 2/3 cancels. Over here, 11/6 minus 2/6. Again, we can do that as well. You can switch it to adding the opposite, whatever you'd like. But again, just subtracting fractions, 2/3 minus 2/3, that gets us 0. So again, notice on the left side, Cross that off, you're left with 0. And now here, in order to subtract fractions, we need a common denominator. This does not magically become 6, or whatever your common denominator is. Notice I'm going to just change the 1 so I can do math quicker. You take the bottom times 2, that's how we got that 6. Take the top times 2. So now I can take 11 sixths minus my 4 sixths, and that's where I'm going to get another improper fraction where the bottom number goes into the top number one time. Take 1 times that bottom number. Take that away from the top. That's where you're left with 1 and 1/6. Again, as mentioned previously, this is solving if math teachers make you check. You write down that word check, and then you put down the original problem. For me right now in class, I just have us focus in on the solving. So again, notice we're solving one-step equations. We start here and it builds to 2 steps, and then we build it with distributive property and multi-step problems, and then with your 8th grade standard, there's many steps and other things. So this is very vital and important. One step. Even if you can see the answer, we still need to show that 1 step of work. So the extra practice, I want to practice a couple of these at least. So again, you write down the original problem. If you can see the answer right away, well, Mr. Wells, I know it's 3. That's great if you know the answer, if you can see it. But you're going to get to times when you can't see the answer anymore with equations. So we need to learn right now about how to show our work. So again, on your assignment, you write down the original problem. If there's any subtraction, we have a phrase where we say don't subtract. I don't know if you said it, but it's add the opposite. I hope you said it. Focus on the side with the letter. Find that. Since there's a p and it's being added with a -5, we want to get rid of adding a -5. To do that, I'm going to add a +5 to both sides. Why a +5? Great question. Because a +5 and that -5, when you add them together, they cancel. So I'm just left with p equals, and now again, careful. A -2 plus a +5 is not 7. It's not a -7. You get that +3. What if they're decimals? Oh no, don't panic. It's the same thing. Find the side with the variable. If there's subtraction, switch it to adding the opposite. From there, find the side with the variable. What we're going to do then is, again, to get rid of adding a -13 and 2/10, to get rid of adding a -13.2, we're just going to add a +13.2. And whatever you do to the one side, you've got to do to the other side. Now, if you're doing mental math like I am here fast, make sure you line up those decimals, stack them up, so when you add them, you bring that decimal straight down. Again, we did that because the -13 and 2/10 cancels with that. That's what we're left with. Wonderful. Again, fractions, change them to decimals. But this one, 5/6, I think it gets you 0.8333333333333333333. You cannot put enough 3's into the calculator. So you're stuck doing it as fraction work. But the fractions aren't so bad because these ones already have a common denominator. So focusing on this side, how do you get rid of adding a -5/6? You add that +5/6 to both sides. Why? Because on this side, the -5/6 and the +5/6 cancels. Cross them off, you're left with x equals, and now I just add up the tops. Again, that is acceptable by IXL. For me in class, though, now we're back to fractions. We want to make sure it is a mixed number. So this bottom number goes into the top 1 times the bottom. Take that away from the top. And that's where we get that 1 and 4/6, which again, IXL will take. You'll see me on assessments usually, or something, on quizzes rather, put down equals question mark and circle it on up to let you know. Oftentimes I do that to let you know, you're right, but what does this equal? It can be simplified because you can take a 2 out of both of them. So when you do that, that's where we get 1 and 2/3. So yes, in math class, make sure your fractions are in simplest form. One review from the blast from the past, mixed numbers and this borrowing concept. Again, change them to decimals if you don't like it, otherwise super fast. We find that side with the variable. Okay, to get rid of this, yes, we can add a negative, or yes, you could just subtract 3/2 from both sides. Again, notice it's on the left side as it focuses here. I'll push the button so it focuses. And we're subtracting a negative 3/2 over here. We did that because 3/2 minus 3/2 gets us 0. It cancels. I'm left with z over here, and now to subtract, don't subtract the whole numbers first. We've got to make sure we can subtract the fractions. So remember, this is where you have two options. For me, I'm going to build a common denominator. And now you got to be careful. Can you take 1/6 minus 3/6? Can you take 1 minus 3 in fractions? Not quite. So you have a choice. You could make these improper. You could take this as 5 times the bottom number, add it to the top. You could change this to 31/6. And this one 3 times this guy. And you can make them improper and subtract. But I want to show us again that borrowing, where borrowing is different. It's different with fractions. Everybody say different. I don't know if you did. I'm not there, but I hope you did. Borrowing is different because when I come over here to borrow, yep, that becomes a 4. But I'm not borrowing 10. I'm borrowing one pizza and cutting it into 6 pieces to add to the number of pizzas I have, or whatever our connection is. So 5 1/6 is the same as 4 7/6. It's not a proper way to write it, but it is the same amount of pizza. I have 4 whole pizzas still, and now I have 7 pieces that are cut into 6. So now I can subtract. Now I can subtract these fractions, and I get 4/6. I can subtract the whole numbers, and I get 1. And again, simplify that down, 1 2/3. There's your answer. And we will, in our book assignment, we will have word problems. So again, from there then, when you spend $7.25 this week, this is $3.65 less than you spent last week. Write and solve an equation to find the amount you spent last week. You might be able to look at it and see what it is, but again, we want to be able to write out, like it says, write the equation and solve it. So what I want to talk about is this right here. Everybody circle up this word this. This is referring back to something, a previous information we were just told about. Well, that's this previous sentence. You spent $7.25 this week. This $7.25. So we're going to put that down. And then we got this word is. Box that on up. We talked about before how is means equals. And then we've got this $3.65 less than. Well, if it's less than what you spent, it's whatever comes after that word than. Draw that arrow out. It changes the order. Whatever comes after the than. You spent last week. I don't know what I spent last week. That happens first, and then less than means to subtract. All right. Now we have written an equation. Now it's time for us to solve. It's got decimals. Switch this to adding the opposite. How to get rid of adding a negative 3.65. We're going to add a negative $3.65. Add a positive $3.65. Why? Because on this side where the variable is at, the positive $3.65 and the negative $3.65 cancels. On the right, what remains is a W. And again, if you're using mental math, do it very carefully. Line up the decimal. 8. So, how much did you spend last week? I spent $10.90. Again, when it says to write and solve an equation, you must write it, you must show the step of work and solve it. If you just make $10.90 appear, that's great. You got the answer. You missed 2 steps of work, and so that counts against us. And on our assessment, as they are written currently, and you did not write it, you did not solve it, so you did not get the answer correct. Because notice again, our I can says that we can write. It says simple equations. Don't be upset about this word. It just means that there's one step. There's not a lot of work involved. We can solve equations involving additions, and notice how that is right here. We're solving one-step equations, and it's super important. We must show the one step because it's building towards our 2 steps in our future math careers with the math that we continue to do in pre-algebra and algebra.